Welcome to Accessibility Beyond Compliance, using gamification as a motivator. I'm Nicole Bergstrom, Senior Director of Digital Accessibility at Hilton. In this role, I have the honor and the privilege of looking after our Accessibility Center of Excellence, along with an amazing and highly diverse team of accessibility SMEs.
I'm Karen Griffin, Manager of Digital Accessibility at Hilton. And in my role, I look after our Hilton Honors Loyalty Program and support innovation in our small to medium business size programs. Today, Nicole and I will share how our accessibility team used gamification to elevate accessibility awareness, motivate our agile delivery teams to own accessibility, and expand our team's reputation as being fun, engaging, and being collaborative partners.
Oh, yeah. So Hilton's journey into accessibility, while it began before 2016, 2016 is really a milestone date because that's when I joined Hilton. And when I joined at that point, it was just me. We took a reactive bug fix approach, which many of you know is never going to be sustainable. And we quickly pivoted to shift our processes way upstream to where we have an unquestioned seat at the table when projects and initiatives are being brainstormed. While our processes are grounded in WCAG, we do not use checklists. We have found that we can do the right thing and ensure our digital content is actually usable to assistive technology users. Our goal is to humanize the digital experience and bake accessibility into all aspects of the user journey, inclusive of our on-property and in-room stay experiences. Whether in research, ideation, design, development, or testing, we live by our customer promise to create friendly and reliable experiences for all. To achieve this and ensure scalability and sustainability across a global Fortune 500 organization, one challenge was to find creative and engaging ways to instill accessibility ownership across all functional roles. We have found success in making accessibility fun to learn by taking a gaming approach. I turn it over to Karen to take you through an example of one of our accessibility gaming successes.
Thanks, Nicole. Have you ever taken a mundane task like putting dishes away with a song that you love and trying to do it before the song ends? Or how about asking the kids to put away all their toys in a minute? Or my favorite, trash get ball. Making shots with crumpled up pieces of paper to a trash can across the room. Or maybe I'm just a competitive person. In any case, congrats, you've gamified a task. So what is gamification? It is the technique of applying game mechanics to a non-gaming environment, such as training to increase engagement, happiness, and loyalty. It can be broken down into three main components. Number one, the game mechanics, which specify the learning goals and how players win or progress, like earning points. Number two, emotional states. These are the actions that emerge when the game mechanics are executed. And number three, player behaviors, positive or negative emotions evoked during training process. And to clarify, what we will be sharing is not a gaming app or software. Instead, it's how we use the gamification approach to train and educate our team members.
So why should a company use gamification or entertain this kind of approach or techniques? Well, there are several reasons that come to mind. On screen, we have some boxes that highlight what these justifications might be, but I'll go through just a few of those. So gamification, it's not preachy. And here at Hilton and members of my team know that we do not want to be preaching and garner the eye rolling around accessibility. So we want to look at ways to make it more fun and engaging. Using a gaming approach also plays to different learning styles, and it allows people to consume new ideas and information in the way that they learn best. And isn't that aligned with some of the fundamentals of accessibility? It allows participants to take away what they will. It also, will it allow them to really remember the WCAG success criterion? No. Will it allow them to remember that the A11Y team is fun? Yeah, we hope so.
We sure do.
And do people want to return to or repeat experiences in general that they find enjoyable? I do. I hope others do. So gamification, it releases dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. And I call those the feel-good brain chemicals. I like to have those feel-good brain chemicals released whenever possible. So playing a game can actually disarm people. It can encourage them to rally together. I could go on, but I think you get the point. So that then leads the question, well, why gamification for accessibility training? We've kind of alluded to some of that, but I'll dive a little deeper into why it really is important to us, the accessibility team at Hilton. So I'll share a little story. I love to play games. And when my children were small, I loved to play games with them. And I loved watching them strategize how they were going to beat me. Well, one of my favorite games is Boggle. And there was no way that my kids were ever going to beat me in Boggle. And I was not going to allow them to beat me in Boggle. So it became a real competitive yet enjoyable experience. So seriously though, gamification allows us to approach accessibility, which is a complex topic, and really distill it into bite-sized, easily digestible learnings and concepts. So the other thing that we do with our approach here at Hilton is that we pull in game-related content that's in the context of the work that our agile delivery teams are already tasked with completing. So this makes the learning relevant, applicable, and actually actionable. It's not generic in nature. So an example, if the team's roadmap does not include any kind of video work within the next quarter, we are not going to fold in video accessibility topics in our game. It's not relevant at this point in time. It may be down the road, but not right now. So as I mentioned before, and again, this is really, really important, it's this concept of breaking complex topics into these little smaller bite-sized or snack-sized learning. And you can eat more snacks throughout the day than one big meal, right? All right, so the other piece is that in our approach, we will actually take time to discuss not only right answers, but wrong answers or alternative answers. And that reinforces the concepts that we're trying to get across. So teams, when they are all together in one of our games, they are hearing the same information at the same time, and it eliminates the telephone line effect. Okay, so I'm dating myself a little. If you all don't know what that is, talk to me later. And it helps actually build relationships. And at Hilton, we really pride ourselves on the relationship building aspect that enables all of the cross-functional roles to come together and work more effectively and efficiently. And so in this way, we're actually supporting the maturation of our agile delivery teams. And so finally, as I've said before, Karen will say it, it helps demonstrate that we're not the accessibility police. We are seen as fun, which is kind of cool.
I like it.
Right? And that we are great collaborators. And so team members end up coming to us with questions, and they seek us out for solutioning support. Again, pretty darn cool. All right, so that's the justification, if you will, as to why we really are taking a gamification approach. Now, what about motivation? All right, so I told you about the motivation of my kids to play games with me because they wanted to beat me, and they still haven't to this day. I am still the master boggle mama. But I don't think any of our Hilton team members, they don't have a competitive bone in their body, right?
Not really.
Yeah, right. Okay, competition, prizes,
100%.
swag, right? All great motivators. Food,
Yeah.
food, great motivator, okay? So friendly competition, it can be exciting. It's not the only way to motivate. As we mentioned, we've got prizes, swag, food. They are all great enticements. And while what we have actually chosen is Braille Starbucks gift cards. Yes, money is actually loaded on it.
Absolutely.
Not just the gift cards, right? Not just empty. There are also low-cost ways and things that you can do in order to inspire, incentivize motivation.
All right, let's get to it. It is game time. Why did we decide to do this accessibility bowl in the first place? Jeopardy type games, they require buzzing in. We didn't necessarily want quick answers. We wanted the team to have time to process the question and come up with the right answer. Now it's time to take a bit of a little dive on a twist to the College Bowl game, the Accessibility Bowl. Let's walk through how our team brought gamification to life in just an hour during a 3-day all-team meeting. I will discuss how this type of gamification sparked cross-discipline conversations, and most importantly, why we did not choose examples that would blame somebody or put somebody on the spot or blame an entire team. Choosing good examples of accessibility to go through and showing why it works well can also help boost team confidence. Our game was designed and presented through a PowerPoint presentation with linked slides. This will make more sense in a bit. I'm going to walk through the rules we set, how we created the teams, and some of the questions that we asked during this time. I hope you'll have fun learning and take away some ideas the next time you have to run a training. Okay, so we had a group of about 20 team members and we asked them to break into 3 teams. We did have virtual participants and they were assigned the teams and used chats to participate, or they could just opt to watch via video as we were streaming this as well. The team participants varied from product managers, delivery managers, analytic managers, SEO analysts, quality assurance engineers, front and back end developers, content designers, and UI UX designers. Each team picked a number, whatever was in my head at that time, and if they guessed, they got to go first. We wanted to make sure that each team had a chance to go first. Each round, a new team got to go and pick the first question. Letting the teams have fun choosing their team names got their excitement up for some friendly competition. So they chose a team captain, and here are their names. Wizard Lizard with 2 Z's, Pirates versus Ninjas, and just Josh. But he wasn't alone. Next, going to the rules of the game. We needed to make sure that the rules were not complicated and they were easy to follow. The team captain picked a category, then picked a question. The team then had roughly about 30 seconds to answer each question and discuss amongst themselves. The correct answers were awarded points. Partially correct answers were provided half points, and incorrect answers received 0 points. It then went to the next team to choose a question. So here's a little bit about how we scored. We wanted to keep the scoring simple as well. Each round increased in the amount of points earned. So for instance, we chose round 1 was 100 points, round 2 was 200, round 3 was 300, round 4 was 400. Half points, like I said, were awarded if the judges, the accessibility team members present in the room, thought it was a valid answer. And for the final round, everyone wrote down their points wager as to not be influenced by the other teams. And in the event of a tie, extra questions were prepared. And like we mentioned before, our prizes were $5 Braille Starbucks gift card. But again, you can determine what's manageable for you if you were going to do this on your own teams. Whoever is scoring, and this is what we did, should write down the category and number of questions on a visible board or paper, cross them off as they get picked. The scorekeeper tracks team points in a visible area. And if possible, have one game host and another person scoring, which is the easiest. Let's take a look at the examples of our categories. We had keyboard behavior, screen reader announcements, processes and tools, and hodgepodge, which is a great place for questions that didn't quite fit under anywhere else. And then the final round was the same question for everybody. I love this example of a keyboard question we provided. This type of question isn't highlighting a bug, a flaw, or pointing any fingers. It is simply to get participants to think about keyboard behavior for a section of a site they're already familiar with. We provided a summary of the type of question. So for this one, it was keyboard keys for hotel stays tab panel. It makes sense to the team to call out the component. So we told a story to help team members who don't have disabilities imagine a situation they'd have to use a keyboard to navigate this tab panel. By providing contextual hints, it provided team members an opportunity to imagine how this component should work and that it does work correctly. So for instance, this question is, your dog ate your mouse and now you can only use your keyboard. Sorry about that. Can you just move me over? Thank you. So if you use the tab key and navigate to the hotel's stays tab on this panel, then you use your tab key again, where would you expect visible focus to land? Whether or not the team provided the correct answer, the answer was displayed and discussed as shown in this screenshot on this slide. So for instance, we could have stopped at the focus goes to see where points takes you link. Instead, we go deeper and provide an explanation of the correct answer in order for team members to have the why for a given answer. It helps with information retention. In the previous example, for accessibility professionals, it may seem like a given. It's the tab key. But remember, everyone is on their own accessibility their own journey. For a more complex object, as shown in this screenshot on this slide, we wanted to take another section of the upcoming stays page, which our team knows really well. However, as the accessibility lead, I knew it could be even more accessible. So currently it functions in a way that when a screen reader has focus on the view/edit link, it only announces view edit. It does not provide details on the particular hotel stay they are on to view and edit, especially if a screen reader is pulling up just the list of links. So what does make that link unique? So this got us to stop and think. This is what goes beyond WCAG, which is just the ground level. Instead, we think about our customers and how it would enhance their experiences on this page. What are we doing is not prescribing how to code, but instead provide all disciplines with the understanding and how this works for different users. How can this page component be more understandable and robust? Because this was a more complex question, we had a couple of acceptable and half-point answers. So for instance, acceptable answers were the link text and then stay dates. Link text hotel name, and stay dates. We provided half points if the answers were only view, edit, and then hotel name, or the link text was not mentioned first, or there could have been another acceptable half or full answer brought up that we didn't think of, but that would be okay. By giving the time for the teams to discuss amongst each other, they shared ideas, accessibility knowledge, and different perspectives. This also sparked the idea of enhancing this component in order to incorporate these details without our team telling them they must do something. The final round topic was chosen because this is an area where we see some misuse of the element, and so we wanted to bring this to light. We asked our teams to now wager their points that they had earned throughout the rounds, knowing the category of links versus buttons, but they couldn't see the question yet. We displayed the same question for all teams at the same time, and we asked them to write down their answers and hand it in to me, who was the host, before the answer was revealed. So now that each team member had their points wagered, they knew the category in question, they wrote down their answers, handed them to me, and then the answer was revealed. The teams were neck and neck, which made it pretty exciting. So the points were 850 and 2 teams each had 800. 2 teams bid 800, well, just Josh only bid 100. So after all said and done, Team Pirates versus Ninja won the Braille gift cards to Starbucks loaded with that money. And honestly, our accessibility team won too. So what are our takeaways? After one accessibility bowl during a 1-hour block of time, it was quite remarkable the impact it had. Our quality testers put in bug tickets with accessibility issues they caught based on the concepts that we touched upon in the game. Testers, developers, and product owners partnered more closely with our accessibility team and were able to ask relevant questions with the accessibility language. Processes were streamlined with better accessibility visibility in our user story tickets. And best of all, the team did request another bowl just this past February in our another team meeting, which means they actually enjoyed the experience.
So for me, what I looked at was first how fun and engaging the experience was, the feedback that we garnered, and word got out, right?
Sure did.
So word got out about how fun the accessibility bowl was, and it resulted in other agile teams requesting that we run the game for their team meetings. And just this morning, remember, as we were walking past where everybody was having breakfast,
Yeah.
and we were talking about it, the suggestions were, hey, we want you to run this every time we have a team meeting.
Yes.
And we were like, of course
we will.
without question, right? So I think that also is a testament to how successful this is. And the A11Y, the Accessibility Bowl, it actually isn't the only game that we have organized. Several years ago, the accessibility team was given the opportunity to, again, another hour that they were given to fill, and for a 100-person event in person. And I had just been waiting and waiting for an opportunity to host an accessibility family feud. And this was the opportunity. So it was a really heavy lift to pull it off. But what we did is we engaged others who were outside of our team. And so having others in the planning and execution of this accessibility family feud, it resulted in them coming along on their learning journey as well, becoming champions in addition to this overall success of the event for the 100 people that participated. So like the Accessibility Bowl from our Accessibility Family Feud, we saw a huge uplift in the excitement, enthusiasm, and really the commitment to holding each other accountable for accessibility. And, you know, that accountability still persists today. Our gaming toolkit also includes icebreakers. So if we are going to do a presentation, we want to get people's attention and quickly get their interest, We break out what we call the accessibility word search game that demonstrates in a very tactical way, include equity versus equality. And then that opens up and we are able to have discussions and then lead into a lot of our learning. During workshops, we take yet another approach and we put participants, workshop participants into teams, kind of like you've done with the Accessibility Bowl, but we task them with building an inclusive tic-tac-toe game. And again, probably my team members who are listening, they know how much, not only do I love Boggle, but I also love tic-tac-toe. So here's tic-tac-toe once again, folks, but it is the asking these teams to build an inclusive tic-tac-toe game. We have already gone through learning around different disability personas. We've talked about universal design. And so the task is to build this inclusive tic-tac-toe game using this, what I call my bin of random things. So we show up out to conduct a workshop. I have this bin of stuff that I've picked up from Target, Walmart, Dollar Store. The rules are you can't use technology. You can't use your computer. And so we give the participants about 10 to 15 minutes to come up with this tic-tac-toe game. And then we bring members in, other team members that we had sent out of the room, and they serve as the panel of judges who go around to each of the games and attempt to play these games and then choose the winner. And at the end, the winner who has the most universally inclusive tic-tac-toe game wins a prize. Not always the Starbucks gift cards, all right? So, you know, for me, I love walking around the room and really observing the teams as they strategize to use these random things that I've picked up. Crazy stuff. Oh, that's on sale. Okay, I'm going to put it in my random box of things. And so you get to see and hear the creative juices, the thought, the choiceful thought that goes behind this. And so there's, again, just in and of itself, the teams working together, putting people together that don't normally work together. It's not all the designers together. It's not all the developers together, right? It's the cross-functional teams. And it's really, you know, it's fun to think about creative ways to help people learn. And as the game organizer, I think it's equally as fun to watch others having fun learning. Wait.
There we go. So from one accessibility professional to another, you know, I may get overly excited talking about this topic, but it just, like you said, it just brings me joy to hear the feedback and the excitement from our team. So I did put the word out there, and these are just some of the many quotes and feedback that we received. So from Tasha, who is a quality tester, the Accessibility Bowl was the highlight from the team meeting for me. It was all inclusive and fun. The questions were impactful enough for me to remember each point when I tested a ticket for accessibility. Laura, our content designer, good content is accessible content. The Accessibility Bowl helped reinforce what I already knew about accessibility, and it made the experience fun and engaging. Erica, one of our UX designers, having real-time examples from our own projects as game questions made things easier to relate to. The competition added that level of fun that allowed us to open up with one another and not be afraid to be wrong. Even getting answers wrong allowed us to chat through the why and the how for items that might pop up in the future. And then Josh, which is one of our developers. To me, the most eye-opening part was the type of answers the game pulled out. It really helped me learn how important it is to understand the accessibility needs. The game was a huge benefit for me. All right, so now that we've talked about our success with gamification and accessibility training and how it excited and elevated the knowledge within our teams, what questions can we answer for you?
All right, great job, Nicole and Karen. The attendees loved your content, and they've actually asked quite a lot of questions here. So we have plenty of time here, so hopefully we can get through them all before the end of the session. So the first question is, do you think gamification works for any team? Or was there something specific about the teams you tried this with that you felt would lend them to success with this method? For example, did the team's prior level of accessibility knowledge matter?
So I have an opinion, but I
I
will
do
let you
too.
go ahead.
So that's a great question. And we tailor our accessibility bowl questions to where we think that team was. So the questions I had for this team were a little more elevated and very detailed because I knew that they had the basics of accessibility down. If a team that we know is just getting into accessibility or it's a newly formed team, we may broaden those questions a little bit more. So we really tailored it to our audience.
So in other words, it doesn't matter the level of accessibility
doesn't matter.
knowledge, but it's up to us to
Correct.
be able to gauge that. And what I would say is, to the question, will this work for any team? In accessibility, what do we always say? It depends, right? It depends. Over the years, and if you think about going back to 2016 when I joined Hilton, this likely wouldn't have worked right at that time, but we did quite a bit of trial and error, and the talking head and talking at was not the magic bullet. And so looking at different types of games, maybe smaller, as I mentioned, some of the what we call icebreakers, those for a team that was not in a they were a newly formed team, they were a larger team, they were dispersed. And I went in and I used that word search, and it did break the ice. And that's all they needed at that time to then be open to hear and absorb the resulting information that I had to give to them. So again, I think if you take gamification broadly or as a spectrum, and you look at ways to have engagement activities, I think that can work for any team.
Great. All right. Next question. Do you guys have any books that you recommend for gamification?
Well,
so they're not books, but I have done some research. Let's see if I can find it in my notes. I apologize for just a second. So one of the sources that I found really helpful was called How Gamification and Training Works, the Complete Guide 2023. And this was from growthengineering.co.uk. So that was definitely one of the sources. Another came from e-learning industry, which was titled, How Does Gamification and Training Help Your Employees? So those are just a couple of the sources that I looked to. It wasn't specifically on accessibility training with gamification, but the techniques on how to involve gamification was very helpful.
and for me, I lean into some of my early training in educational technology for strategies and techniques, and probably raising
kids,
raising 3 kids and learning how to keep them entertained. And
my
just having
kids,
fun.
Yep. Just 2 of my kids. I've always been a competitive person, so we just kind of put gamification into the household all the time.
And a strong commitment, again, to not being the accessibility police, and to be able to tell the story that being usably accessible does not mean ugly. It doesn't slow down development. We can still align with our business strategic priorities, go faster. So all of that put together. Yeah.
Appreciate that. So the next question that we have here, someone wanted to know, can you explain more about the tic-tac-toe game and how do you ensure it's inclusive?
Okay. So when in the workshop, so when I talk about a workshop that we conduct is usually more than an hour. And we talk about, we start off in talking about different disabilities and how different disabilities utilize assistive technology in the digital space, not only how they utilize it, how they expect and need and want to utilize it. And so we set a baseline of knowledge for our workshop participants. And then what I've done is I put up a challenge, which is the tic-tac-toe challenge. Our executives have said, okay, we need you all to come up with a prototype for the most inclusive, usable, accessible tic-tac-toe game, and the winner will have that prototype mass produced and put into every one of our hotel property lobbies. And then it is, okay, now go, here's a table where we've spread out that box of random things, and you can only use what is there on the table in the box. You have to close the lid on your computers, and you can only use your noggins and the stuff. And then what the goal isn't, do they really come out with the most inclusive tic-tac-toe? The goal is they're thinking about it. And so they're trying to build a game, an experience that will enable users, specifically users with disabilities, to be successful in playing that game. So it's a little bit different, right? Are we really judging, is it truly the most inclusive and accessible? It will be judged based on the 4 or 5 teams, which one has attained the most inclusive, accessible in comparison to those who are around them. There are things that you can do as well. If you so desire, you can blindfold somebody and say, are they able to, as a judge, is this judge simulating, obviously not truly being able to walk in the shoes of a person who has a vision disability, but a simulation. Can that judge, with the blindfold on, can that judge successfully understand the X's and O's, or even place it in the right place? So there are multiple ways in which you can actually do that kind of a simulation. We're looking at sensitizing people, opening people's mind to really understand that there isn't just one way in which something can be done. And when you talk about universal design, if it's not inclusive, it's not universal.
All right, great answer. Another game question, this time related to the Family Feud. So how did you structure the Accessibility Family Feud? Like, what kind of questions did you have?
Okay, so again, when I think about this, it makes me laugh because it was a lot of fun. And these were things that we tackled, right? And so what we did is, if you watch Family Feud, it says the top 100 people were surveyed. We surveyed 100 people. We came up with a whole list of questions, and we surveyed the people who would be at that meeting. So we had their real responses to the questions. And so then as the team would be asked a question, and we actually had this big room that we were in. We had 2 teams lined up. We managed to use a display we found a quasi Family Feud display where we could reveal the answers. We had buzzers. We had somebody who was our host. Yeah. And so when the answers were revealed and the way in which we structured the questions, we might ask things like, we surveyed 100 people and asking what is one screen reader? What is one screen reader? And so then we would reveal the answers. And the responses were according to what people would answer. But let's say that they put in something, they made something up and it was not really a screen reader, that would then allow us to have the same kind of conversation that Karen alluded to, where we could talk about the myths, the realities.
Right.
And so really, how did we pull that off? I mean, we polled 100 people in our organization that were going to be at this meeting ahead of time. So it really was about them. And
Their
when they were
engagement.
when they were engaged in it, then people in the audience could say, oh yeah, I happen to have been one that answered that. And then, oops, I think I answered it wrong.
All right, love the answers. So the next one I have is related to your checklist. So if you don't use checklists, how are your designers, devs, and QA folks consistently ensuring that they catch defects before they're released?
Would you like to answer that?
Sure. And then you can fill in anything that I missed. So we take this shift left approach, right? So I am already working with product owners. I'm working with the designers at the design level. And not only do they have that education and the buy-in, and they are aware of accessibility and what pertains to their role, but we have those bi-weekly, weekly discussions, ad hoc meetings with them. They're engaging us. We're not having to chase them down. They're asking for meetings with us. So I'm dedicated to a certain team. Like I said, like I'm specifically with our loyalty program and our small and medium business. So designers know they can come to me. And we've also set up these stop gaps. So our developers also use Cypress in order to see if anything gets caught there, and it will not go into production at that time. So not only are we setting up meetings when JIRA tickets are being put in, when we're developing something, I will go in and I'll put acceptance criteria. I will annotate those designs for our QE testers, and our QE testers are the ones who are testing against our accessibility criteria. So we've set up these guidelines, we've set up these relationships, which is super important in order to make sure that everything has been taken care of prior to production.
The other thing, so if you take a look, Karen mentioned that she supports our loyalty product. And then we have others who support how Hilton defines product areas. So we have accessibility SMEs that are actually embedded on those delivery teams, on those agile delivery teams, which means that they are involved in all of the agile ceremonies. They are expected to understand that product roadmap, what is currently in sprint, what is coming soon, what the commitments are on a quarter by quarter basis from a delivery perspective. And then, so we've got a tried and true, what we call an in-delivery team model that is inclusive of regular and ongoing interactions with our UX designers, with our product owners, with all of the cross-functional roles on the Agile delivery team. But we also are plugged into the design systems that we have. We utilize shared components so that we're baking accessibility into shared components as well. And as a team, and how do we ensure consistency from one accessibility analyst to the other, is that we actually do our own weekly sync up. We call it architecting accessibility. And each week, a member of the team is tasked with presenting a topic. And if there's discussion around alignment on interpretation, that happens on that weekly meeting. And then probably if other members of the accessibility team and Hilton's accessibility team is on, and Karen knows I am a huge stickler on documentation. So we document. We have an accessibility AC acceptance criteria library, both for our web and in our native app, through shared components, documenting also through the wireframe annotations in our Figma libraries. So there's a lot of different ways in which we look to ensure consistency across our channels and across our analysts and all of our different functional roles.
And just one more addition to that, we're not the keepers of all this accessibility knowledge. We want to educate and we want to encourage our team members outside of our accessibility team, so they too have access to all of these resources at any time. And we are really trying to, mature our teams so they're comfortable speaking about the accessibility that relates to their role.
All right, thanks. Next question is, we got about 3 minutes left, so we hopefully can get a couple more questions in. Have you ever implemented these games in an asynchronous scalable format, such as via e-learning, authoring tools, or an LMS? If so, what controls did you use to ensure that these courses were accessible?
We have not. I know selfishly, we kind of enjoy doing this in person. The most asynchronous would be recordings that others can go back and watch at a later date. That isn't to say that further down the road, we may, I don't know.
We can entertain that.
We can entertain it. It's just a lot of fun. So while the teams, our team itself is virtual, and many of the people with whom we work are virtual, when we do come together for these meetings, it's such a great time for us to just have that in-person contact and to then facilitate this fun kind of learning experience. And so that's why we haven't gone to anything that's asynchronous at this time.
So do you think you could run this virtually at all? I mean, obviously your teams are virtual, but obviously you're only doing it in person, my understanding.
I never think anything is just outright impossible. It might look different. It may be more individualized, and it may not be as impactful, or it may be, is it the accessibility bowl?
It may be a different game that we choose.
It might be something different.
Mm-hmm.
Philosophically, right? The idea of learning bite-sized information, having different, ways of delivering the content to play to different learning styles. All of those philosophical ideas behind what we're doing would still
resonate.
Yeah. But I think that's what we would have to do. We'd just have to look at it and modify it. Yep.
All right. We have time for one last question here. And somebody wanted to know, are you able to share the games that you have put together so that they can use them with their companies?
I think what I would say is we are very open to one-on-one interaction. Sharing the actual content wouldn't be relevant because it is very much contextualized. Mm-hmm. But I know Karen, I know several other members of my team who would be more than happy
Absolutely
to just help you frame, how did you choose those questions? It wasn't just a drop of a hat.
No,
there's a lot of thought that goes behind it. And so to do a deeper dive on that and share additional lessons learned, we absolutely would be happy to do that.
All right, great. I believe your contact information is on the slides. Yes. I think you guys put that there. So I appreciate that. So, really, we want to thank Nicole and Karen for a great session. We didn't get to every question. We got to a lot of them, but the questions will be shared with Nicole and Karen, and they'd be happy to answer any further questions offline. So I want to thank everyone for attending. I know that there's one more session coming up at 5 o'clock Eastern, so hopefully everybody can attend one. And then that's the end of AxCon. So we really appreciate it and hope you all have a great day.